All right, we're live.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining me today. I'm at the BTC house in LA. My name is Stacia Kelley. I'm the artistic director at Sport Clips. My Instagram handle is Scissor Ensemble. And this is my model, Nelson. Say hi, Nelson.
What's up?
All right. So what we're going to be doing today is a low taper fade with a high texture top using all of clippers. So I've already sectioned Nelson off, and as you can see, I section him off really high. So I really want this parietal ridge and the crown to lay at its natural fall, and that's just going to help me later on. What's important about men's grooming is sectioning. It's just so important. You have to establish a blueprint because you need a plan. You can't build a house without a plan, right? So this is my blueprint, so I stay organized, and I get them a great haircut. All right. So we're going to start with the zero on the sides, and I'm going to show you something. A lot of times when we're working with clippers, people say it's all in the wrist, but actually it's really in just your hand movement, your fingers. So if I'm putting 4 fingers underneath my clipper, my thumb is in between, it's my pivot, okay? So it's really gonna rock it back between the front 2 fingers and the back 2 fingers, rocking it back and forth, the weight. And that's gonna create the C shape. So when you're drawing a C, you draw it from the top to the bottom. But when you're working with your clippers, you're working with that C from the bottom to the top. And the reason for that is I'm working from the C from the bottom to the top. I'm suspending the clipper away from the scalp, which is going to create length and distance. Okay, and that's really going to help me to my next step as I move up. If I move up, I'm going to turn them a little bit. How do I know how far I want to go up on Nelson here? It's really simple. If you look at an actual hairline, see how it moves from the top all the way down to the bottom? It's the same thing when you're visualizing the fade. If I know I want to take my zero just about mid-ear, I'm going to take that and I'm going to follow it back to the nape, and that's how high I'm going to go with my zero in the back. Okay, so I just keep that visual in mind, and once I have that guide, then I know where to go with my next steps. Okay, so I'm going in with my zero, just rocking that weight back and forth, creating that C. That C shape. I'm just doing it right here in the middle of the ear. And then I'm going to visualize it to the back. Following that line, I know exactly where to go in the back. So I know that clippers can be very intimidating, especially for people that don't do a lot of short haircuts, or even cosmetologists, because clipper cuts just isn't in the curriculum very often. But my good friend Kenny always says, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable in this industry, and that's absolutely correct. The more practice you make, the better you're going to be, the master you're going to create. Okay, so now you can see I've had that zero. It's all the way to the back here. I'm going to only work to the back. I'm going to do one side at a time so you guys can see. Now I'm going to flip it to a half. And I'm going to go about a centimeter above where I left off with that zero, okay? So about a centimeter up. Doing the same thing. Nice flick. Just a little bit higher. Follow it. I have my guide in the back, the nape. Distributing that weight, using my thumb to pivot. All the way to the back. So when you're working with tapers, you're really not giving the baldness right above the ear. You want to keep that density, that darkness of hair right here. So as I move up, I'll cut it with the longer lengths. Absolutely. So we just moved from the zero to the half, and we followed it back in the nape. Now I'm going to put a 1.5 on. So you may ask, why are you going to go from a half to a 1.5? Well, like I said, when you're creating those C motions and you're suspending that clipper away from the head, you're creating more length. So really, it's allowing you to blend and move into, it's skipping the 1, okay? So I can easily go from 1.5 and it's going to blend really nicely. Same flick of the wrist. And now that I'm at the top of the ear, there we go. Okay, now that I'm going over the ear, I'm just doing the 1.5 around the ear, but notice how I'm keeping this side of my blade not in towards the hair, so I don't want to cut any of this length. I want to create a hole. So I really want to leverage it out, and I'm at like a 45 degree with my clipper. Bend their hair, or bend their ear, don't be afraid of that. And now I'm going about a centimeter higher in the back as well.
Hey, Stacia, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
How would you work around a client that may have cowlicks or jumps right around the ear or their hairline?
The hairline especially. I don't see a lot of cowlicks around the ear. I mean, there may be some different like movements around the ear, but I don't see a lot of cowlicks around the ear. But the neckline, yes, absolutely. It's very important to tell your client what type of neckline he should use for his hair type, and also any type of swirls he has. Swirls in the back, cowlicks in the back, I always suggest a taper for my client. It's going to look nicer, because when you're trying to establish a line or, you know, a direct like circle or a line through a cowlick, it looks really off. But you're going to have growth that's going in a different direction, and you got to know how to turn your clipper around to go against the growth, but still match up with the taper as you go. So if I have a round or a circular cowlick back here, I want to make sure that I go down with the grain to match it up. And I may have to move my clipper up and down with my lever just to find that right length so it looks really nice.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Kathy is commenting and asking if you don't mind sharing what type of clipper you're using one more time.
Kathy, is that right?
Yes.
Kathy, I knew that question was coming. It always comes when you're cutting hair, and it's really... So as the artistic director, I get the chance to test a lot of clippers, and I really enjoy that. I want to see what's out there. I want to see what people are making, because the clipper industry is really getting just better and better, because they're really listening to us as stylists, as barbers, and they know what we need. And then the mechanics in the clippers are just getting stronger and stronger. There's different types of motors in here. There's rotary motors, and a lot of the cordless ones that we love. So it just depends. I like different ones for different things. This is the Wall Senior, the 100-year anniversary clipper, and I really like it because of the weight. I started cutting hair when all the clippers were corded, and they had a lot of weight to them. So it was really important to me to keep that weight, because it's what I was used to. But if you're a new stylist, I really suggest a lighter clipper, like maybe the Magic Clip, because then it's easier to control. But great question. Okay, so now I'm going to be working. So I left off at that 1.5. If you know about the blending comb, it's about a 1 inch width. So not 1 inch, I'm sorry. So it's 1 centimeter width. So what it's going to do, it's going to allow me to take that 1.5, and now I can move up clipper over comb. What I want to do with Nelson right here is basically create a structure that has strength. So instead of following the round of his head, that would be more feminine. I want to create strength and like a square shape. So I'm going to make sure that my clipper comb is elevated to a point where it's coming out instead of following into the round. So now that I'm working higher up, I want to make sure that my ergonomics are correct. So you can tell that I just switched my clipper into my hand, like holding it like a pencil. Okay. If I were to keep my clipper like this while I was cutting, see how my shoulder's really high, it's uncomfortable for me, and I don't have as much control. So now what I want to do is put it like a pencil. I'm going to come in with my clipper of comb. I'm looking at the hair to come at my guide, which is right at the spine of the comb, and I'm really going to work my way up using this technique. This is very similar to the same technique as scissor over comb, but you're working with a clipper. So I'm following my guide, I'm going all the way up. Notice that I'm making sure I establish my length and keep my length at the top of that parietal ridge, so he has strength to that parietal ridge area.
All right, we have another question. You touched on it just now about your elbow and shoulder position, but how important is body position when trying to control your clipper and like really establish yourself for your direction?
I think it's really important. For any hairstylist, body position, ergonomics is so incredibly important. And some of us don't learn it till later on in life, which is rough on your knees, your back, your wrists, all those things. So keeping, one leg out so you have the ability to really get down or if not, you're going to lock your knees and use a lot of your back. It's really hard on your back. So getting down, be able to like see where you're working, moving up, you have that agility to really just kind of move with your clipper. I'm working on my next panel now as I go up. So I'm working in panels. I kind of worked here. Now I'm working right next to it, right above the ear. And this is really just creating my structure first. I'm going to go back and do refinement and detail at the end, but this is the most efficient way for me, excuse me, to cut hair. Create and establish your shape, and then go and refine afterwards.
When creating a tapered fade while maintaining length at the top, and I know we're working, I might be jumping, but
That's
I think
okay.
it's because I'm excited.
Yeah.
So a couple things. What kind of consultation tips do you have for navigating a client through that, especially when they're coming in with so much length and they are losing a lot of length, but they're also keeping it? So what kind of consultation strategies, how do you navigate that when talking to a client?
And consultations are really important, but we also have to recognize that we are the professionals. So we know what will look best on them because of their head shape, their face shape, and all those types of things, the density of their hair, the curl texture, all that. So it's important for us to give them advice, but usually they like to bring in pictures, especially these days, right? They have a picture in mind, what they want to go for, but then I have to kind of just adjust and let him know. It's okay to let him know. Educate the client while they're in the chair. Like, this will look good on you, but it would probably look better if you had a lower fade based on you're having a lot of great curl and we want to keep that curl, and the curl may look weird if we go too short, that sort of thing. So I think just having an honest conversation with our clients, and men are really open to that. Like, they want to hear from us because they really don't know what's best for them. Does that ring a bell? Is that good? Yeah, Nelson, see?
Yeah,
Nelson agrees. Always trust a woman. I like that, Nelson.
All right. My next question is continuing on the tapered fade to length on top. Is this your best method for avoiding a severe line of disconnection between the top and the fade?
So the top here, there will be slightly a disconnection with this haircut. I mean, I'm not really looking for a connected all around haircut because I want this hair to really fall at its natural fall as I cut up and create that nice structure here. But when I work through the top, it may not completely connect, and that's okay, because a lot of people think that disconnected haircuts are very obvious, like mine, and it's not necessarily true. Disconnection has been really great in the hair industry because it's allowed clients to be able to have long lengths but shorter lengths on the sides, so they have versatility in their haircut. So it just kind of depends on what you're looking for, but I don't really care about connection if it's not shown, if that makes sense. If it's in the top and it's not shown, it really brings a lot of texture. So it just kind of depends. Yes. How about here? Is that better? Okay, I just don't want to block it because I feel like I'm going to block it. This side. Better? Okay, thank you. They're guiding me through this. Thanks, guys. I'll tell you this, working with ergonomics on a live doesn't exist usually, sometimes. But it's okay. We got to work around it. It's just one cut.
All right, we have a question from Kasim, and I'm sorry if that is wrong, but they are asking, how do we judge which fade technique looks best for your client's face shape?
It's a great question, and I'll turn Nelson around a little bit for this. Kind of depends on the face shape, right? So if he has a very thin forehead, or maybe it rounds in a little bit more, I want to give it more structure. And if I want to give it more structure, that means I need to have more length, which means I need to start my taper or my fade a little lower, so I have width, right? If he has a wide forehead and I want to kind of make it a little bit more skinny, I'm gonna tell him that I would go for a more lean look and go shorter, higher up. So it just really depends on what you're working with. think I'm about done over here, just creating that structure again. Like I said, we're going to go back and do a little bit of refinement. So no big deal. I just want to create that initial structure. Earlier, I mentioned Kenny Duncan. If you don't know him, you should know him. Look him up on Instagram. He's K Duncan Grooming. He's an amazing educator. He's won Educator of the Year 3 times in a row. He works for the Andis company. It's just an all-around amazing guy. And it just blows my mind working at Sport Clips, the opportunities I've had, and being able to work with all kinds of artists in this industry. Sophie Polk, Jason Reyes, John Mosley, to name a few. But I would never have had those experiences if I hadn't come to Sport Clips and allowed them to give me these opportunities, which is really cool. Okay, so we've really established my shape over here. Now I'm going to move to the other side and do the same thing. So if you're just now joining me, my name's Stacia Kelley. I'm the artistic director at Sport Clips. We're working with a low taper fade with a high texture top. I'm going to start again with the 0. I know where I left off on my other side, so I'm just going to mimic that. Small C shape, really have that control. My thumb is my pivot. My thumb is my pivot. Just my fingers are moving, not my wrist. How do I know where to go in the back? I follow the head shape. So if I put my comb right there where I left off, I know that's where I want to leave off in the back. Small C shape, shifting the weight back and forth between my front 2 fingers and my back 2 fingers. Okay, now I'm going to lift my lever up to a half. Do the same thing. I'm only going to go about 1 centimeter higher than that. Follow the guide here, doing the same thing, about 1 centimeter higher. I get asked the question a lot, how did your career shift to men's grooming? And actually it happened in hair school. Because I'm a cosmetologist, but all my future professional friends, they were so fearful to take the men's cuts. And I was just over the monotony of roller sets and perms. So I was like, I'll take all the men's cuts, right? So that's really how I got used to it. And that was where I started the crossover. And I just have a lot of fun with it. And I really like the quickness of haircuts and, seeing that end result quickly. And that's why I'm not into color. Not that I love people to do color because I need to get my hair colored, but for sure, I just really like the in and out of clients and getting a haircut and seeing the before and afters. It just fulfills my love tank for sure. Okay, I'm working with that 1.5. Doing the same thing. Going just above, 1 centimeter above where I left off with that half. Lunging, keeping my ergonomics great, keeping my posture good, comfortable. This is where I'm going to move around the ear. Making sure I don't put this part of the clipper towards the ear. All right, so I'm going to take a quick look for balance. Balance is very important in any type of fade. All right, we're looking good. Now we're going to go back with the clipper over comb. Remember, I left off that 1.5 because that's where my clipper is going to pick up. It's about the same width as 1.5. I'm going in horizontally. And also, I hold my clipper comb like this. This allows me to pick up that hair, find it at my spine, but then once I'm moving up, I can easily turn my clipper comb over and comb that hair back in its natural fall. Changing my clipper to a pencil, holding it like a pencil. Same technique as a scissor over comb. Same technique. Training's really just been the key to my success. And at Sport Clips, that's just something we really prioritize. And it's important to us because it's not only just the beginning of your career, but it's also throughout your career. You can never stop learning. If you do, you get stagnant, you know? And like Kenny said, you got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And if you haven't ever put clippers in your hand, please do it. Practice with your friends, practice with your family members. Go to a community event where they're giving away free haircuts and practice. Like the more you practice, the more you master your craft. Which leads me into why we kind of changed our tagline at Sport Clips to pros and men's hair. Because we are the pros of men's hair. I mean, we cut men's hair all day, every day. I would say when I was behind the chair, my record was 32 haircuts in one day. So if you think about that, week after week after week, I mean, how can you not be a pro if you're doing men's haircuts that often and taking education and continuing your education? We're good at what we do because we love what we do and we provide the education. So you can, you know, get good at it. Anybody can get good at it.
All right. So Rona is asking how long you've been with Sports Clips.
All right. I've been with Sport Clips for 16 years. It's crazy, I know. I mean, and I started out as a coordinator in Wichita, Kansas. Shout out to my Kansas girls out there. 16 years, I started out as a coordinator, you know, and then I just kept moving up. I had passion to learn more, to learn not only haircutting, but the business aspect of it, right? Learn how to be a manager, learn how to kind of like be a salon owner almost. But within Sport Clips, be a manager, be assistant manager. There's so many different avenues. We have ambassador programs, which is amazing. In the ambassador programs, you know, you get to share your love and go into beauty schools and teach haircuts in beauty schools to really help the future professional world. There's also TSS. I'm gonna have you move your neck slightly back. Thank you, sir. TSS program is a technical skills specialist. So we do a program where, you know, they learn even more techniques to be able to train new stylists on the floor in our stores. So there's so many opportunities and I've just moved up into all of them. I became a member of the artistic team in 2016, which is a platform artist for Sport Clips, moving around to trade shows, teaching education, becoming an educator for Sport Clips, and then I became the artistic director. So it's really a dream come true that I never thought I would be, especially in school. I never thought this would be where I'd end up, and I'm just in awe, and I can't thank Sport Clips enough for giving me this opportunity.
All right. A couple questions. We had a viewer, Kim, wanted to expand on your Sports Clip question and ask you what your favorite part of being part of the Sports Clip team was.
Okay.
And then I have a technique question.
And then you what?
I have a technique question.
Okay. My favorite part about being with Sport Clips, first of all, the opportunities I've had to grow. Second of all, the people that I get to grow with. I mean, we are like a community that just love each other. We network with each other. We have fun together. If you're not having fun cutting hair, then you shouldn't be in this industry. I mean, that's just a fact for sure. Yeah, that's what I love, the community and the opportunities.
All right. And then Lisa is asking, do you always prefer to do clipper cuts on dry hair? And when do you wet the hair down?
So you will see me when I'm working at the top, I'm gonna maybe lightly wet the hair down just for control. But yeah, most of the time when you're working with clippers, it's just easier to work with dry hair because you want it to be in its natural fall all times, so you can see what you're doing, what you're creating. If it's wet, you never know what's gonna do when it dries, and then it's a whole different story and you gotta dry it and then see and all that. So you might as well cut it dry. That's my opinion.
All right. And then we have a question. What kind of educational opportunities have you seen since joining Sports Clips, and how does that really benefit not just stylists that want to be barbers, but I mean, really all stylists? How does education help you?
Education's helped me so much because I think it's just scary. The industry is scary. you don't know what you don't know, and you want somebody to help support you and give those techniques and like, you know, kind of put their arm around you and be like, hey, I got you. You know, if you get scared, don't worry, I'll be right here and I'll have your back. And I'm going to show you the way, and I'm going to show you my ways, but also my way is not the only way. There's so many other ways to do a technique. And I think that's just so cool to have people in the industry. This industry, first of all, rock on. The hair industry is awesome. Everybody's so amazing. And, you know, we're here to support each other. We learn new things in order to share the things that we learn, right? We're just sharing knowledge back and forth. And then as artists, we create kind of like new things, and then be able to share that is really, really cool. Okay, I feel like I'm in a good place where I have created my structure. Now I can do a little detail. So if there's a little bit of lines or darkness here, I'm going to show you a little trick to get rid of that real quickly. So what we're going to do is you're going to take, remember I said before, distance equals length. So if you see this tooth, this very fine last tooth, you notice it has more width to it than any of the other teeth. So if I lay that onto the scalp, I'm going to come over here for you. Here we go. If I lay this onto the scalp and I come in at a 90, I can debulk that line real quickly instead of trying to figure out the fade and maybe it's not working and then I start raising my line up. I don't want to do that. So what I want to do is lightly put my lever up, come in at a 90-degree angle, and it's really going to get rid of any type of little line, especially this tedious part where it's so short, right? It's at a 0 to a half, and I really just want to make that line disappear. It's like an eraser. It's awesome. If I want to take a little bit more length, then I'm going to point my clipper at a 45-degree angle, and then I'm going to come in like this. So it's very similar to point cutting, but you're working with really short hair. So same technique, different tool, and a lot shorter hair. You could take a shear, I guess, and point cut this, but I'm going to use the same tool the whole time. And that's blending nicely. So I'm going to do that at the back. Tilt your head slightly.
We're getting a couple questions about why you are not using a guard and how that would affect your technique if you did have a guard.
For this part right here, the reason why I don't have a guard on is because I was so short. Now, if I started with like a wand, I could do the same technique with the wand and then lift the lever. So it just depends on what length you're working at. But because I'm working with such a short length right now, I don't want to put a guard because it wouldn't cut anything. And you can really hear your clippers. You got to be in tune with your clippers, the tools. You can hear when it's cutting. And if it's not cutting, then you're doing nothing and you're just wasting time. So making sure you know what level you're at of length, and adjust accordingly when you hear the cut. So I can barely hear just a little bit of cutting, and that's all I want. I'm just kind of point cutting. And you see that nice transition? We're just point cutting, and it's just blending it so much better right there. Okay, look down for me, Nelson. Thank you, man. This technique can really help you, especially with clients that have indentions in the back, you know, like protruding bones right here, which a lot of them do. We all have different shaped skulls. So this technique really helps with that, kind of lightens up those dark areas. I can turn my clipper over. So this is the refining and detail I was talking about that I kind of wait to the end, make sure I get my structure in first, and then I can come in and do this. We're going to come to the other side. Tilt your head slightly. And the reason why I'm doing a clipper cut all over is because I want to show that using different tools can really cut down on timing of your cuts, which being efficient behind the chair makes you money, but also your clients love it, especially male clientele. They don't want to sit in a chair for 45 minutes usually. They want to get in and out. And when you're working with men's clientele, they want to get it out quickly, but they come back so frequently, right? They come back 2 to 3 weeks. So we get to work with back to back to back clients, which really is nice for your paycheck. All right, so now we're going to work through the top. Like I said, I'm going to just slightly wet it down just for control. The clipper will still cut through it, no big deal. I'm going to go ahead and part this right down the middle. And that's only because I have small hands and I like to take smaller sections. So now this is interesting. When you're working with clippers on top, how you hold your clippers is important as well. So I can comb, pulling the hair straight up. Make sure I turn my clipper on. And then I'm going to cut towards me. So I'm going to work on one side of the head first, then I'll work on the other side. Make sure you're at a 0. I was not. There we go. And sometimes the first time you work with clippers on top with somebody that has long hair, a client, they'll be like, oh, whoa, what are you doing up there? Why are you doing the clippers up there? They kind of freak out a little bit, but show your confidence. You know what you're doing. It's just another technique. It's just another tool. You can still do it with long links. And I'm pulling this hair straight up to a square. I have my guide from behind. And once I get to that apex, that's kind of my guide of when I start over directing the hair back. So remember I said distance equals length. So here's about the high point of the head. So now I'm going to start over directing that hair back. And it's going to allow me to have more length in the front. This is just a good tip when anytime you're working with men's hair, because they always get a little freaked out to go too short in the front. So if you over direct that hair back and then at the end, you can really customize his length when it's laying down and it won't scare him as much. So that last section doesn't even pull back there. So that's okay. Now I'll be working on this side. Here's my guide right here from the other side. I'm pulling it up square shapes. For men, you can do round shapes for sure, but square shapes have a little bit more masculinity to them. So they have more strength to the haircut. Less softness, I guess, put it that way. Okay, so now I'm at that last section that probably won't be cut. Pulling it straight back to the apex. Distance equals length. We're really over directing that hair back so it has a lot more length in the front. Now I'm just going to cross check because it doesn't matter how much you cut hair, you should always cross check your work. So I'm going down the middle, make sure I have it connected. And like I said, I'm obsessed. I'm hungry for education constantly. I'm always looking for new things, new tools, how to do new things. You guys should be too. It just makes this life in the industry so much more exciting. And, Sport Clips has the caravan. I don't know if you've seen any social things on TV. We have a caravan September 12th in Salt Lake City, Utah, which is going to be awesome. What we do there is basically like a mini Sport Clips hair show. So we bring in our other partners, like American Crew is going to be there, Hanzo's going to be there. We're going to have a great show. My artistic team is going to be there. Claudia Thomas and Mary Jean Carino, they're awesome educators. So it's free education. If you're a future professional, you want to come out, or anybody in this industry, honestly, come out. There's food, there's prizes, get new tools. It's going to be a lot of fun. September 12th. And if you need more information, you can DM me on Instagram and we'll talk. A little bit more refinement. Like I said, I really want that to shape into the top. Cutting on top with clippers, though, is awesome because if you're looking for a lot of texture, it doesn't, as you can see, it's kind of almost like a messy cut. And the reason why is because there's not a lot of tension. It's not wet. You're not taking sections. And it's just all around great for these really cool textures.
I don't have my mic on, but hopefully they can hear me. How are you really working with this natural texture on top to make sure that your technique brings that up?
Well, I examined him in my consultation, and he has such a cool wave, right? And I just want to keep that. You should embrace the curls right now, guys. I'm telling you, the women love it. The guys love it. It's just a hot look. And the natural fall, you can tell, like, look how that's falling now. His natural curl is just falling really great. This is kind of where it's short enough to the point where it's kind of keeping it nice and straight, and it's falling that nice blend. But then I get to have this cool texture and all that curl on top, which is going to be real sexy. Now I'm just kind of pulling it all together. Again, refinement. Let's come over here. See how this wave is kind of just floating right here? I'm just going to barely cut that off so it lays nicely into the fade. And also, I'm a sucker for guys with a little bit more length. You know, I think it just really shows your personality. Hair for me is my identity. I love hair. I think it's a great way to be able to express who you are. And having something to do with, to style with, things like that. I mean, I think that's important. It's fun for me anyways. All right, now we're gonna move into the finishing detail. So the finishing detail can be a make or break of a haircut. We all have seen those guys at Walmart, maybe had a jacked up neckline, right? And we're like, oh, I hope he didn't get a haircut by anybody I know. But that's really important to have it nice and clean, because this is Nelson, you're my walking billboard now, okay? So like you walk around, someone's like, hey man, why don't you get a haircut? Like, Stacia, Sport Clips, man. So it's really important, and it can mess up a great haircut. I did an awesome fade. We got a lot of texture on top, but if I mess this up, it's done for. So it's really important. It's a signature to your art. My friend told me that, and I love that. It's a signature to your art. So I'm gonna work around the ears first. So be careful with the skin around the ear. It's very thin. So you really wanna come in from the front to the top, and then come back from the back of the ear to the top. This way the skin doesn't get caught in these teeth and you cut your client. All right. This part right here, a lot of times we miss. Make sure you're over directing that so we can take care of any hairs that are falling over that hairline. Taper that in. Beautiful, looking beautiful. Okay, now I'm working right here behind that ear, right? This is the mastoid bone. I don't want to take that hairline in ever, usually. I just want to crisp it up. So I'm just going to tap, following his natural hairline. And because I did a taper, it's easy for me to turn my clippers over, use my stationary blade, collect all that neck hair, get it all cut off. And then I'm going to do a mini C shape right up into that no guard I started with. And it's going to blend nicely in. So this is going to allow his haircut to grow in instead of grow out. It's really important. You don't be like, oh, 3 days later, oh, I can tell your hair's growing back. No, I want it to grow in. Small C shape, same effect. I still have my thumb, balancing. I'm going to move to the other side here. Same thing, right here to the mastoid. Press, 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 then clean up. Small C shape. Working around this ear. So the trick I was showing you guys earlier with that that point cutting, you can also do it with your clippers or your trimmers right at the end, especially with that no bald or the zero guard right here. Really, if you have any heavy points, just go in there and point cut that out. How you feeling, Nelson?
Great.
All right, so now we're really down to styling. Styling's my favorite part. Like I did all this work, I want to show you what it can really look like, right? So the curl, like I said, embrace your curls. He's got great curl. So I'm gonna, with a male clientele, sometimes they don't know how to apply product, they don't know how to use it or how to put it in. So it's gonna be very important that I do this the correct way. So Nelson, I'm gonna spray your hair lightly. And can you just put your hands to that and feel what that feels like? So it's not like soaking wet, right? It's not out of the shower wet. Wow. So basically, if you get out of the shower, go eat breakfast, let your hair dry for a little bit, right? Maybe it's 60% dry, 70% dry. That's really where your hair needs to be before you add products, okay? So this is one of our partners, an amazing partner, American Crew. They just came out with this matte clay spray. It's awesome. This is gonna be simple for you at home. I'm going to spray just enough to get it all over. So it's gonna have a natural finish, so it's not gonna look wet or any shine or anything like that. It's gonna really be able to brace your curls. And also a lot of guys don't want to use a blow dryer or don't have a blow dryer. So I gotta adjust to that when I'm talking to them. So what I'm gonna show them is, you got a towel at home, right? You do wipe off after you get out of the shower.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, we're cool. Yeah, clean towels.
Clean towels.
So then I'm gonna show you, just putting that towel over your hair and gripping it is gonna really bring out those curls. Okay, so you just kind of squeeze it. It's gonna put those curls in a nice position. Oh yeah, Nelson, dang boy. I thought it was no air conditioning while I'm so hot. Looking good, looking good. All right, guys, if you're ever looking for more education, especially future professionals, go to www.sportclipscareers.com or hit me up, Scissor_ensemble. Thank you so much for having us. Sport Clips loves everyone, and be hungry for education.